so much. Thank you all for being here, and thank you for that lovely introduction. Unleashing the imagination is probably a concept that we have all heard since kindergarten. But my work with people with special needs has taught me to rethink this concept and completely redefine it for myself. As Professor Hall was saying, I started this project this past summer. I was awarded an Emerson grant, and I worked with students with special needs to help them create books and use creative writing as a therapy. And I continued the project this past fall. I completed a quilting project with 2 other volunteers, and I'm really excited to continue the project this spring. This has been a very personal journey for me. I've discovered a lot about myself, mostly that I love working with children, especially those with special needs, and I've also learned a lot about the field of special education. Also, to complete this journey, I will need the clicker, which is in my bag. I will get that. So I decided to think about combining my interest in creative writing and the field of special education while I was studying abroad in Copenhagen. I went to the Danish Institute for Study Abroad and concentrated on child development and diversity, and I focused on children with special needs. While I was there, I learned a lot about Denmark's inclusive program, which means combining children without disabilities with students with disabilities in the same classroom. That was really eye-opening because that's not as common here as it is there. And I also learned a lot about using creative approaches with children with special needs. Our teachers really encouraged us to think outside of the box and use ideas that may not exist or that may not be as common. So I thought about using creative writing, and I applied for an Emerson grant this past summer. I worked with Professor Hall, and we thought about ways to use creative writing as a therapy and as a way that would make kids look forward to reading, look forward to writing, and explore things about themselves that they may not have done otherwise. So I wanted to think about using interactive reading activities and really fun writing activities. So I designed board games with the help of Professor Hall and had the students complete their own books. I also work at Tradewinds, which is part of Upstate Cerebral Palsy's Education Center. I was really lucky to work with the curriculum director, Letty Mitty, who is here. And I learned a lot about being in a special education environment. Prior to that, I'd never really been completely immersed in an environment that focused just on kids with special needs. It was really exciting, slightly overwhelming at times, but I learned a lot. I spent a few weeks observing classrooms at Tradewinds and understanding how the teachers worked with the students and how I would think about combining their abilities and their interests into a creative writing project. I worked with 8 classrooms. I worked with 5 in Utica and 3 in Rome. Tradewinds has several campuses, but I went to the ones in Rome and Utica. And I went to each classroom twice a week, so I volunteered 4 times a week. And it was a really amazing experience. I was able to bond with a lot of the students at Tradewinds and figure out how to create lessons for people with special needs. So it was really great. And I focused mostly on reading and writing. So the first day of the week that I was there, I did reading activities with the students. And the second day of the week that I was there, I did writing activities. And as I said before, I really wanted it to be fun. I wanted the students to be engaged in reading and to understand how stories work. And then I wanted the students to apply that knowledge to create their own books, to make something that they could be proud of and to give them a way to express themselves through a creative project that they might not have normally done in school. So that's a picture of me reading with some of the students, and that's a picture of me writing. When it came to reading activities, I really looked for dynamic projects. So the first day that I was there, I wanted the students to understand how stories work. It's a little tricky sometimes to understand that the beginning is the first part of a story, the middle is the second where a problem might be introduced, and the end is where the problem might be resolved and it's the last part of the story. So I thought that was one of the most important things that the students should understand when creating their own stories. And to help them understand, I created a board game, which I have here and which you can see up there. The board game was really fun for me to make and for the students to play. I started with the beginning, the middle, and the end and allowed the students to advance through the game. So I would read stories with the students every time I did reading activities, and I tried to think about stories that would be appropriate for the ages of the students in the classrooms. Tradewinds groups students in classrooms by age, but sometimes developmental abilities don't necessarily correspond with age. But Tradewinds does a really good job of making sure that the students in a classroom are basically at the same learning level. And I worked with each class and I read stories. So I read different stories with each class. And the first day when I played this board game, I read a story to the students and then made cards showing the beginning, the middle, and the end of the story. And then I had the students place the correct card on the correct piece. And it was really fun and allowed the students to not only learn about the structure of a story, but also to work together with each other so that class as a whole could complete the board game. So that was also a very good way for me to learn how to think about creating lessons that were interesting and a lot of fun for the students. I also wanted students to understand how emotions function in a story, how characters feel, and also at large to understand feelings in general, because sometimes it's a little tricky to identify when someone else is upset or someone else is happy, and it might be a little trickier to do that when reading a story. So I created popsicle sticks with different expressions on them, and I had the students read a story. I read it to them, and I gave them all different sticks, and they held up the appropriate emotion at the appropriate time in the story. So if a character finally got the toy that he wanted, they might hold up a happy face, or if the character lost that toy, they might hold up a sad face. So there were different stories that I read, and it really gave the students a chance to understand feelings at large and to use them when writing or reading a story. I also wanted students to understand how things in stories could be represented without words. I'm taking a graphic novel class now, and I realized that pictures are definitely integral in stories and picture stories for sure, and really express things that may require the help of words or may not. So I read a book with the students that did not have words, and the students and I wrote a story together. So this is an example of David Weisner's Tuesday, which is a storybook that has no words and has these really fantastic pictures. And the students and I came up with a story ourselves. So this shows frogs that are on lily pads but floating above the pond. And the story is about animals that rise above the water and float through the sky, and it's really goofy. There's like a guy who's eating a sandwich and he sees the frogs and like drops his food, and it's really funny, and it's not like animals flying. So the students and I would look at the pictures and come up with a story about what's going on. So here we might say that the frogs are flying and that the frog on the right looks maybe a little fascinated with what's going on, and they are going to go into the sky and just do anything, and then we'll turn the page and see what happens. So it's really fun, and that gave them a way to understand how pictures function in stories and how they can express things, feelings, plot, etc. without words. So the reading activities helped the students understand stories and also gave me a chance to bond with them and connect with them. And I think it also gave them a little bit of a different schedule for a day and hopefully made them excited to read. So the second day of the week that I was at Tradewinds, I did writing activities with the students. And by the end of the summer, all of the students created their own books. I started by creating a board with sample characters, which you can't really see so well, beginning, middle, and ends, that help the students understand how to write a story and hopefully make them feel a little less intimidated by the process, because it can be a little scary or daunting if someone tells you just to write a story and you don't know what you want it to be about and you want it to be really good. And I didn't want the students to feel pressured. I really wanted this program to be a lot of fun for the students and not as academically rigorous as some of their other school day lessons. So I wanted the students to feel at ease, and I wanted to help them in any way that I could. So this board definitely served as a big help for the students, and I gave them some ideas that they could either use or not use, but that they had some type of thing to lean on. So I came up with a few example characters, such as a boy, a girl, a dog, a cat, a superhero, a princess, and a vacuum cleaner. One of the students really likes vacuum cleaners, and I wanted him to use that if he wanted to. And then I came up with beginning, middle, and ends. And each row here corresponds to the same story. So, continuing with the Toy Story, this first example has a beginning that says once, and the student would insert the name of a character, had a favorite toy. And so this beginning allows the student to start a story and then to describe more about the toy, why it was the character's favorite toy, what it looked like, etc. In the middle of the story, one day the toy got lost. So this presents a problem that the student could work with and gives the student a sense of freedom to explain how the toy got lost, how the character felt when that happened, whatever they wanted to say. And then in the end, then the toy was found. So this helps resolve the problem and allows the student to describe how the toy was found, that the character was happy, anything that they wanted to. Not all of the students used the board, but the board gave them some structure but a large sense of freedom. So they could explain anything they wanted to. They could use one part of it, not use the other, come up with their own problem, anything that they wanted to, but I wanted to make them feel comfortable and excited about doing the project and not feel scared. So each week I worked with the students on one part of the book. So the first week we did, or the second week really, we worked on the beginnings, and all of the students wrote their beginnings on blue pieces of paper, so they understood the organization and I could keep track of everything. They wrote their middles on yellow pieces of paper and their ends on orange pieces of paper. And every student I worked with created a book, and it was really exciting to see the process that the kids went through. There was one student who was really nervous about the project and felt like she wasn't going to be able to do it. And she wrote one of the most detailed books that we got, and it was really fantastic to see her really proud of herself. So we had a reception for the students, which allowed them to talk about their books. And here are some of the books that they wrote that you guys will get a chance to see. So this story is by a student named Chloe, and I will read it to you. The Princess Jalila fell in love. Jalila fell in love with the prince. His name is Tyler. The princess ran to her castle. The Princess Jalila married the Prince Tyler. Then the princess sat in her chair. Princess Jalila likes to talk to Prince Tyler. So you have a beginning with characters, and you understand what's going on in the story. It sets up the story. And I think a teacher or a teacher's aide helped write the story, which was absolutely fine. Like used the handwriting, and Chloe dictated what she wanted to be said. The princess and the prince wanted to have some kids. The princess and the prince had 51 kids. Some of their names were Mary, Santina, Megan, Hobie, and Alex. One day, Jalila and Tyler got into a fight over a toy. The toy was a strawberry shortcake toy from McDonald's. They decided to break up. The kids were very sad. They loved their mommy and daddy very much. The kids decided to get into trouble since their mommy was gone. The kids ate cookies instead of dinner. Mommy and daddy were mad. Princess Jalila and Prince Tyler came back and made them sit down on the couch and think about what you did. So we have a problem here. We don't really know how it's going to be fixed, but there are some details there. It's really exciting. Tyler and Jalila realized how much they loved each other. They decided to live together again, and they fell in love all over again. The kids were very happy that their mommy and daddy were back together again. Princess Jalila and Prince Tyler decided to have another wedding again. All 51 kids were in the wedding. They all lived happy ever after. And this is a picture of Princess Jalila and Prince Tyler. So I really like this story because it's an interesting twist on a traditional tale and allows the student to maybe explore some things that she's thinking about, some things she's seen on TV, whatever. It gave her a chance to express what she wanted to and created a really entertaining story. This next story is by a different student, and I'm showing you this story because it has more pictures than Chloe's story, and emphasizing the way pictures can help create a story. So it's called Joe Likes to Clean, and this shows Joe presumably cleaning the mess around him. And it begins, the boy liked cleaning. His name was Joe. He liked to do dishes. And I believe that the student was writing, so this also gives the student a chance to do it himself, which is a little different, like in terms of actually writing than the other story. Joe used too much soap, and there was a lot of bubbles. And so this shows the bubbles in the sink and the cup and the plate and all the elements that are creating this messy situation. And it ends with, after Joe finished the dishes, he had a mess to clean up. He used a mop to clean up. So a really solid story with a beginning, middle, and an end, and pictures to help us understand it. This final story is written by the girl who I was describing who was a little afraid about writing, and I think she did a really great job. Once a girl named Annabelle wanted a new pet. She wanted a poodle. She asked her parents if she could have a poodle. Parents didn't think it was a good idea at first. Annabelle wanted the poodle because she was an only child, and she was very lonely. So her parents got her the poodle. It was silky black. She decided to name it Jack. And this is great because it incorporates a lot of emotions that the character is feeling, such as being lonely, and doing something about those feelings. One day, Annabelle decided to take Jack for a walk. They went to the store. When they got to the store, Annabelle had to run inside for a second to buy some snacks for her family. She had Jack on a leash, but she forgot to hook the leash. So the dog decided to explore the new neighborhood. He loved it so much that he decided to go further. When Annabelle came back, she noticed that her dog was gone. She felt so scared. She felt just as afraid as she did during thunderstorms. So she ran home and told her parents that Jack was gone. And this is great because she's comparing a feeling to another instance where she felt this, such as the being afraid of losing a dog and thunderstorms, which is really sophisticated. The next day, Annabelle and her parents decided to search for Jack. Another family had taken him in because they thought he was lonely. The family had a dog that was a girl. They fell in love and became parents. Annabelle gets a new dog and decides to name it Willow. Really great story and a great way for her to express herself, and I was really proud of her and all the other students. So we had a reception for the students, and they got to share their books, which gave them a chance to be confident about their work, be proud of their hard work, and also to relate to the other students. I didn't really think about the social part of this project when I was designing it, but I realized how social writing is, and I guess workshops at Hamilton also emphasize that writing is a very collaborative process. So when the students shared their books, they may have noticed that another student wrote about superheroes, and they both like superheroes, and now they have something in common. So it gave students a way to interact with people not in their classes and to share their hard work. So this is a short video that shows a teacher reading a student's book for the student. The student has a visual impairment, but she's helping him read it in a really creative and innovative way that helps the student understand what's going on and the other students. So hopefully it will play.
That was a cat. The cat climbed a tree. Show me how to climb a tree. Climbed a tree and got stuck. Batman looked for the cat. How do we look for something? Look. Meow, that's right. He heard the cat crying. How does the cat cry? How does the cat cry? The cat was crying meow. Batman flew up to the cat. Show me Batman flying up to the cat. The cat.
So that was one of the readings at the reception. And it was just a lot of fun. I had a great time. Professor Hall had fun, and it was really great for the students. So this program really helped the students express themselves, express their feelings, use their imaginations, understand how a story worked, and improve their group skills. It also helped them improve their theory of mind, which is a concept that refers to the way students or people relate to their own feelings and the feelings of others. And mostly it helped them empower themselves through expression, through these stories. So it was a really amazing process for the students. And I could not have done it without the help of Letty. It was a really great process for everybody involved. So I wanted to continue working with Tradewinds. I enjoyed it so much over the summer, and I wanted other Hamilton students to experience the joy of working at Tradewinds. And there isn't a program at Hamilton that exclusively works with people with special needs, so I really wanted to bring that component to the service learning agenda at Hamilton. So I worked on an independent study, and I continue to do that with Professor Susan Mason, who is a great help. And I learned a lot about organizing a project that there were some things that I really didn't expect to encounter, just like glitches in the organization process, and I learned how to work with those things. I also work with Havoc, and that allows Tradewinds to have access to funds and transportation through Havoc. And I was working with two amazing volunteers. They're not here today, but you guys probably know them, Genevieve Neerman and Wynn Van Dusen. They were great, and their enthusiasm really helped make the project exciting, and also taught me about working in a team. I didn't want them to feel like they were a small part of the project. I wanted them to feel really important because they were. They were a huge help, and I especially wanted to collaborate with them and make sure that they felt like they were designing the project too. So mostly I wanted this program to allow Hamilton students to understand service learning, understand working in a special education environment, and bond with some of the Tradewinds students. And it would give Tradewinds students the opportunity to meet more Hamilton students, have older but not too old mentors, and to work on another really fun and creative project. So we decided to do a quilting project to help the students learn about teamwork. We thought that a quilt would enable students to see that they contributed to a larger whole. So we had each student design one square of a quilt, and then we put it together and showed them what they made, so each class made their own quilt. The first day that we went down, we read the book, The Patchwork Quilt, which is a really great story. It talks about a family making a quilt together. There is a part where the grandmother dies, so we did not read that part to the students. But we showed them that, like a family, their classroom works together, supports each other, and is basically there for one another, and everyone can work together. And then we gave students paper to outline what they wanted to draw on their quilt, so they didn't feel pressured like it had to be perfect immediately, and that they had time to think about their ideas, think about what they wanted to show. Most of the students used drawings, many used drawings, some wrote, which was great, so we really allowed them to do whatever they wanted. Again, we wanted it to be really fun, a really exciting part of their day that gave them freedom that they might not normally have, and just explore themselves, write whatever they want, draw whatever they want, be creative. So these are some pictures of the students working on their quilts, me and Jen working with the students, and two students are really proud of their square, or their individual squares. This is an example of one of the squares that a student made. He had this really great ability to draw these transformer-like figures again and again, which was really cool. So he drew one on the quilt, and we gave each student markers and different supplies. And they drew it on the white piece of the fabric, and then we allowed them to pick a background for their quilt. So this one has chickens, and it was just a really fun project. This is another example. This student really likes glitter, and he actually wrote a story about Fashion Island over the summer, and it was great. So he, again, incorporated glitter and really fun, creative things into this square, and we made sure to get glitter supplies for him at the store. And we put the quilts together for the students at Hamilton, and then we brought them in, so each class had their own quilt. This is one class holding up their quilt, and hopefully every student was excited, as that smile shows over there. This is another class's quilt, and this class has older students. And we were really surprised that all of the students were into it. We didn't really experience any students who were apprehensive about it or who just didn't want to do it. Both the boys, the girls, the younger and the older students seemed really into it, and that was great. And we also realized that a lot of the students were very easy to work with. I've worked at camps with kids who are really picky, But here, when we ran out of a certain supply, it wasn't really a problem. They took the green instead of the red, and that was really amazing because I didn't really expect that, and Jen and Wynn and I spoke about that constantly as we drove back and forth. So it was just really fun for everybody. It was a very mutual, exciting project. And this is the third class, and they have their quilt. So it was a lot of fun. I'm going to show you a short video of the students talking about their quilts. And Letty asked the question in the video if any of the students want to talk about what they like about another student's quilt. And that was really cool because, again, it incorporated a social component into the project and allowed students to not only think about their own quilt, but think about what they like about someone else's, what type of friendship skills they want to show. So it's really cool. I hope you guys enjoy it. Can we tap it?
Yeah, I think that's pretty
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really lovely.
It was great.
Sorry, Michelle's the writer.
Alex, did you want to say something, dear?
I think Josh's quilt is the best quilt.
Why do you like it? Why do you like it so much?
Because it's themed on football and it is a pretty good team.
Good. Thank you, Alex. It was nice of you.
What happened to the Jags this weekend?
Oh, they got
Does anybody else have a square they'd like to say something about?
I want to say something about your violence. You got flowers out there?
That's very nice of you.
Nice, Wally.
Thank you, Wally.
Yeah, Wally.
Okay, anybody else?
No. Me again.
Again, Alex. You're a scene stealer.
Nick's quilt, I think, is pretty much a spider web. It's really pretty. It has pretty colors, and I'm saying this, of course, because Nick's my best friend.
Hey.
And he's a very great kid. Nice job.
Boy.
Yeah.
I can't.
That was a short clip of the reception, and it was really, as you can see, really a great way for the students to bond with each other and to express themselves and express their feelings for their fellow students.
And it's hanging in the hall.
Oh, really? Okay. And this is a picture of us working, and that is Alex's lovely face. So, yes, it was called Happy Quilt Day. It was Quilt Day at Tradewinds, so it was a lot of fun and a really successful project. And I want to continue the success of volunteering at Tradewinds this semester. I really hope to expand the program and make it a very integral part of Hamilton's service learning agenda. I created a brochure for students and faculty who want to get involved. So if you are here and interested in getting involved with the program, I have the brochure up there, and please feel free to take one. I also have a list up there where you can put your name and your email if you're interested in volunteering. I'm hoping to go down about once a week again this semester, which is what we did last semester. Of course, it's not every week because the Hamilton and Tradewinds schedules don't always match up, but hopefully it will be on a weekly basis for the most part. We'll volunteer for about 3 hours in total, a half-hour drive down, 2 hours there, maybe a little bit less. Last semester we did a little bit less because of the way it worked with our schedules, which was fine. And then driving back. And we're hoping to come up with another really fun creative project. Not sure what it will be yet, but we were thinking about doing a play, maybe comic book, something really fun, enjoyable, and similar to the 2 other projects that we've done there. So basically, this whole journey has helped me realize how creativity can be used to help students with special needs, and I learned a lot about myself through this journey. I loved working with kids. I always have, but I love working with kids with special needs, and I hope to work in a school environment with children with special needs in the future. So I guess this project mostly had a lot of cans, not a lot of can'ts, and I think that sometimes when people think about working with students with disabilities, they think about the limitations, but I really saw how much potential all of the students had, and they amazed me every day, so it was really great. Thank you guys so much for listening. Yes, does anybody have any questions? Yeah.
How old were the oldest kids you worked with?
They were probably about, yeah, 21 or so. I don't know if they knew that we were about the same age as them, so there was still like a teacher-student type of model going on, but yeah. But then the youngest ones are probably about 8 or so. So there's a really big range, and a really big range in abilities as well. Any other questions?
How do you design the projects?
Well, I thought a lot about the creative writing project during the summer, so I spent a few weeks prepping, a few weeks researching. Creative writing is not commonly used as a therapy for children with special needs because writing is often difficult for students with physical disabilities, and sometimes thinking about parts of a story or feelings is complicated. So I didn't really have a lot to work with in terms of past projects like this, but I just thought about what I like about writing and what I want to share with kids, and then how to tailor that to different abilities and different interests. And then with the quilting project, we prepared by meeting when Jen and I met. We talked as a group, and we all decided that we like teamwork and that that's an important value and lesson to teach students. And then we thought about how we could do that in a fun and a creative way. And we came up with quilting. So that was very much a collaborative process. Yeah. Anything else? Yes.
How did you prepare yourself to think about special needs learners? What were the things that you had to inform yourself specifically about?
Well, I talked a lot with Letty. I think that was mostly she was a great resource because I learned a lot about how students with special needs function in a classroom environment. And I also did some research. I have some books about students with autism, students with high functioning autism. It's a huge spectrum, but I think the research really helped. And just observing the classrooms really helped too, because I got a really good sense of what it was like to be in a special needs environment and really immerse myself in that atmosphere.
Good.
And if I could just note that the children that come to our school are referred to by their school districts. And in the world of special education, there's something called the least restrictive environment. Mm-hmm. So the goal is for kids to be included in their home district. But when they have maladaptive behaviors that are so intense that they can't be maintained, that's when the school districts send them to us. So, and it's all special ed certified. We are just basically a resource for the school district. So when Anna was working with our kids, she was working with the kids that everybody had basically thrown up their hands and said, we're out of here, we can't do this anymore. And they're in our program. And so for Anna and Wynn and Jen to come in and work with that population, and it was just so smooth and nice, because they had no preconceived ideas like you guys are just too way out there. So, and they got that. The kids really got that nobody was judging them, that they were just in there, hey, let's work on this together. And I think that's what really made it a huge success. And it was, I think, not a success. They still dog me on both campuses. When are they coming back?
This is a question for you and Letty. Maybe you heard from the parents in reaction to, did they get to take home their books, or how did they
I'd have to say that, sadly, because of the population, there is not a lot of parental involvement. Mm-hmm. We have, most of our kids are residential. And then we do have a lot of day students, but they come from pretty difficult home environments. Not all of them, but many of them do. So, no, you don't get a lot of feedback from the parents at all. Which makes that building of those relationships and those social interactions so huge for them.
Are the teachers like able to incorporate your projects into what they're normally doing, or like how was their like? I'm assuming they're like super receptive of it.
Yeah, that's a good question, because when I was presenting the project to the students, I was also presenting the project to the teachers and the teachers' aides. And Tradewinds is great because there are a lot of help for the students. There are about 3 or 4 teachers' aides in a classroom.
We have what's called a 613.5 model, so that means 6 students, 1 teacher, and 3 additional staff.
Yeah, so it was really great, and there was a lot of help there, but I had to explain to them how to help the students. So today we are working on the beginning of a story, make sure the students establish a character, maybe a setting, but describe something that sets up the rest of the story. And some teachers would continue to work with the students throughout the week when I wasn't there, which was a really big help. There was one classroom that was a little bit more intense than the other classrooms, so they didn't really accomplish what the other classes did in the half-hour period that I was there, but the teacher helped them work on it during the week, so by the time I came back next week, they did their beginnings and we could move on to the middles. Anything else? Okay, well, thank you guys so much for coming. Thank you to Professor Hall, Professor Mason, and Letty. You guys are all really big helps. Thank you.